Microsoft and Amazon are facing one of the biggest AI problems nobody saw coming. Not from their competitors or even regulation, but something very basic and important: power. Yes, literal electricity. The thing we barely think about until the lights goes out. The companies leading the AI boom are running headfirst into a wall of physical limits. And if it goes wrong, it might not just slow things down, but could reset the entire AI race. Let's break down what's really happening here and why it matters for anyone building, investing in, or even just using AI today. When we think of AI, we imagine code, algorithms, or maybe robots. But none of that could work without one thing: infrastructure. And powering that infrastructure of giant AI data centers takes a staggering amount of energy, like electricity powering entire city. In fact, by 2026, data centers could consume as much energy as half of the country like Japan. And we are nowhere ready for that. In the US alone, the power grid is growing at about 2% a year, while its AI demand is set to surge by 580 terawatt hours over the next 3 years, which is approximately 1.5x the electricity used by all US homes in a year. Now you see the massive gap, and in some regions, it's already a problem. Virginia, which has over 60 data centers running, had to switch to diesel generator just to stay online because their local power grid could not handle the load. So even as we imagine a smart AI-powered future, the backbone holding it up, our energy infrastructure, is stuck in the past. And it doesn't just affect AI companies, but our homes, schools, hospitals, and everyone who shares that power. And the more we scale AI without upgrading the grids, the more we risk turning progress into pressure. So what are we doing about it? We are building fast. Every major tech company, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, is racing to expand its data center footprints, with an estimated $320 billion going into new facilities this year alone. It's the biggest infrastructure build out since the early internet days. On the surface, it all makes sense. AI demand is growing, and over 100 million people are already using tools like ChatGPT every month. So building more infrastructure to meet its demand is logical. But here's where it starts to break. Instead of slowing down to address the energy problem, we are scaling up without fixing the foundation. And this is not just a US thing. China has already lived through this similar phase. In 2023, caught up in the post-ChatGPT gold rush, they built hundreds of AI data centers as local government wanted to attract tech, and companies didn't want to miss the wave. But now, a huge chunk of those facilities are sitting idle, as the demand just never showed up the way they expected. And that's because the tech moved faster than the infrastructure. New models like DeepSeek came along doing the same work as GPT, but at the fraction of the cost, which means you no longer need power-hungry server farms to achieve the same output. And just like that, billions in investment became stranded assets. And if you zoom out, it's the same pattern happening here. Because if the US follows the same path, overbuilding without accounting for the efficiency shift, we could end up with the same results: too many data centers, too little demand, and nowhere near enough power. This gap between ambition and infrastructure is what could trigger the great AI blackout. There's a human cost too, because these data centers also need massive amount of water for cooling. And land, Arizona residents are already worried about water shortages because nearby data centers need millions of gallons of water just for cooling. While in Ireland, entire community is protesting new data centers because of local resource shortage. Now, layer on another problem: the supply chain. You also need semiconductors, transformers, and skilled laborers to keep these data centers running and updated. And right now, all three are in short supply. Even McKinsey has flagged this. A single shortage in transformers or GPUs could stall hundreds of projects. So we are in a situation where we need more power, more parts, and more people. But we are running out of all three. And this brings us to the part no one wants to hear. What happens if it all breaks? An AI blackout does not mean ChatGPT suddenly disappears or robots shut down. But it could mean delayed product launches, startups getting priced out of compute, and fewer new models hitting the market. Some regions might even pause or block new builds due to energy strains or public backlash. In short, the pace we have gotten used to of having a new AI tool every week could hit a wall. And that wall would not stop innovation entirely, but could concentrate, because whoever still has access to the compute will win. That's a real risk here. Not outrageous, but consolidation, where only the biggest players, those who already have locked in the power deals and supply chain, can keep moving. Everyone else stuck. And in the space like AI, where speed is everything, that could mean the end of competition as we know it. In my opinion, the AI boom probably won't stop altogether. It's too big. There's too much money, too much momentum, and too many people invested in making it work. Yes, a blackout could slow it down or even change the way the industry grows. But we are not stopping. Many of the companies are already looking into smaller, more efficient models that can run on less power, fewer GPUs, and maybe even offline. There's also growing interest in decentralized AI, where workloads are spread out across smaller networks instead of giant centralized farms. So the only concern is, can we scale through solutions fast enough? Because as we don't, this boom could turn into a bottleneck, or worse, a tech cold war where access to compute decides who builds the future. And in that kind of world, understanding how all of this works, that's your advantage. So if you're building, investing, or just keeping up with AI, stick around. In the next video, I'll be sharing a complete roadmap to make AI your advantage.